Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or good night. I think I said that in the wrong order. Welcome back to PCS Science Virtual Learning Edition. My name is Mr. Grazik, and I will be your host this week. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this video, and tell all your friends about the fun you're having and the free homework giveaways you're getting every week from Mr. Grazik, so they come back and like and subscribe as well. This week we're going to be talking about invasive species. There's two videos this week. I had one video that was 6 minutes long. It explains your student work for the week. And then there's another video, which is the video you're watching right here. And that is, this video is going to go more into what is an invasive species. So I'm going to give my lecture just like I would in the classroom, but through Zoom. And then I split these up into two videos so that way I wouldn't have one 30-minute video. That'd be way too long. So without further ado, we'll get right into the lecture and the presentation for the week, which is about invasive species. So I will share my screen with you and we'll get right into it. So here is the presentation. I also have this included on the Google Classroom. So I'm gonna hit present. Hope you guys are doing well out there in your houses or whatever you're doing. I'm doing pretty good. Since I started this quarantine thing, I've gotten much more into like cooking at home. So if you don't know, my son Barrett is still at the hospital. So it's either me or my wife up at the hospital every day at the NICU taking care of Barrett. Then one of us has to stay home with Griffin. But when I stay home for the whole day, obviously, like we're supposed to. But I've tried new and interesting cooking techniques. So I've gotten really into bread baking. So I don't go to the grocery store to get bread anymore. I just bake my own at home. Another thing I've been trying is called sous vide. So sous vide is a way to cook meat to a perfect temperature of doneness. So I got this like big pot that I can set to a specific temperature. So like, let's say I want a medium rare steak or a medium rare piece of meat. I can set the temperature to 130, put the meat in a little Ziploc bag, put it in the water, and then put it on there for like 2 hours, and the meat is perfectly done to that 130 temperature. So that's a lot of fun. I've also been, some of you guys know I really like my grass, so I've been taking care of my grass, and I really enjoy taking care of my grass because it's a lot of fun. I hope you guys are having fun too, doing something new and having a little bit of time to yourself. Like I said, this week we're going to be talking about invasive species, so I'll get right into that. With invasive species, with species in general in an ecosystem, there's three categories. You have native species, which are species that are naturally there. They've been there. They will continue to be there as long as humans don't mess with them. And it's just they are there, and they will always be there unless humans mess with them or unless something gets out of balance and it takes care of itself. So native species are naturally in an ecosystem. Then there's something called non-native species, which are species that are brought to an ecosystem that they're brought there by humans, but they aren't causing any harm. And then there's invasive species, which are brought to an ecosystem and they're causing harm to the native species. So native species are naturally there, like you see right here. So here's two examples of any given ecosystem, a forest ecosystem, right? There's native species can be either plants or animals, right? It's just native organisms, and they're in that specific ecosystem. They should be there. It's where they're naturally at, right? And within that ecosystem, there's things that keep their populations in check. So for instance, this fox, for instance, its population is kept in check by its predators. Its population is kept in check by the things that it eats. So for instance, there's mice there that might be native to an ecosystem, like a forest ecosystem. The fox helps keep the mice population in check. The mice help keeps the fox population in check. And we kind of thought about that a little bit, hopefully, last week with our food webs. So they're all interconnected and they should be there. And so that's native species. They're naturally there. Then you have non-native species. These are species that are brought to an ecosystem and they are non-native, but they are not causing harm. So you see a lot of this. So for instance, you can bring if you have a house and you have like a bunch of ornamental plants out in front, like I know on the way to work, when I come to school, I see some people with banana plants in their front yards. Those are non-native plants, but they are not causing harm to the ecosystem. They're just there. They're not overpopulating. They're not hurting any native birds or anything. They're just there and they look pretty, and those are just non-native. They're not causing harm. Again, koi, they could be considered invasive, but if you have just a small pond um, in your neighborhood and some people put some koi in there, it's probably not causing too much harm to the ecosystem. Largemouth bass still might be able to exist in the ecosystem, and they would be considered non-native. They're not causing harm. They just look pretty. People like to have them, and they're okay for the most part, right? So non-natives are still brought by humans. They're just not causing harm to an ecosystem. And then what we're going to talk about this week, these are non-native invasive. So these are species that are in an ecosystem, generally brought by humans. Either they're transported by ship, by air, by just inside the bed of your truck, your car, just brought over because you think they would be cool to have, and they are causing damage to the ecosystem. So, for instance, this emerald ash borer is a type of insect that was brought over from Europe. For some, it might have got stuck in somebody's lumber, right? So a lumber shipment from Europe on a boat. The bug was stuck in the wood, and then it got to America's shore, and now it's causing massive damage to our forests. They're eating up all of our ash trees, and there's projections that say because of this species now in the United States, we're not going to have. I'm sorry, not that. Because of this species, we're not going to have ash trees within the next 20 years because they're going to damage them. They bore into the ash tree and they basically kill the ash tree from the inside out. Another one is if you see bamboo in North America, and people sometimes put it out in their backyard as you can make like a bamboo wall, so like it's really good for privacy. Bamboo is extremely invasive. It sends roots out underneath the ground, and it shoots up roots everywhere, and it's very hard to stop it from growing. You have to basically, like, in order to get bamboo controlled, you have to like dig a cement wall underneath the ground to make sure the roots can't spread out and send runners up anymore. And so those are very bad because it makes it so native grasses and native plants and flowers aren't able to grow, particularly in like forest ecosystems. They can be very bad. Another one is European starlings, feral hogs. They're all bad. They damage the ecosystem. Feral hogs should not be running around our forest, and they are, and they damage the ground. They eat up roots and vegetables that roots and damage trees and farmland. The real bad deal. European starlings are the type of bird I talked about a few weeks ago, that if you see a massive flock of birds in the city, like hundreds of birds big, hundreds of thousands of birds flying around the city, it's likely to be a European starling, and those are bad because they eat up so much of the food resources and take up so much of the nesting opportunities that native birds aren't in the numbers that they should be. So those are considered bad for the ecosystem. And we're going to talk about a few more here. So common characteristics of invasive species is they have few natural predators. So for instance, in Florida, a lot of people you can go to a reptile show and you can get a Burmese python, which is a big snake, huge snake. And people get them when they're little babies. They're cute little 3-foot snakes, and people really like them. But soon this snake grows to 10, 15, 20 feet long, and people can no longer handle their pets. So what they do is they take them down to the Everglades in Florida, which is a great habitat for Burmese python. It mimics the habitat where they're native to, which is India. But in India, there's jaguars and stuff that'll eat them, and leopards and crocodiles and all sorts of other stuff that will eat them in India. In the Everglades, there's not those predators. So what they do is these Burmese pythons just grow in numbers. They eat native reptiles in the Everglades. They cause damage, and it reduces the native population. So it's a bad deal. So again, invasive species have few natural predators. They're generally long-lived, and they can reproduce very quickly, very efficiently, and spread out very quickly. Another example here is a zebra mussel. These were brought over on ships from China, and they were brought into our Great Lakes, and they ball up, and they grow, and they grow, and they grow, and they clog up shipping canals, and they take away a lot of the nutrients from the water. They're filter feeders, so they take away nutrients from the water, which makes it so there's not enough algae in the water, which hurts native fish species. So they're another bad deal. And there's nothing that will really naturally eat these things in the wild. They live a long time, and they can reproduce in very high numbers. One female zebra mussel can produce 100,000 eggs. So they can quickly damage a water system, and it's a problem in the Great Lakes. So in plant species, so like I said, there's invasive animals, and there's also invasive plants. And we talked about the bamboo a little bit here, but again, they have similar characteristics. They don't have a lot of natural predators in where they're being grown. They compete for sunlight and other resources very well, so they spread out and make it so other native flowers and plants can't grow very well. They disperse seeds very efficiently, so they can make copies of themselves, and they grow rapidly. And they might not even need a mate to create a copy of itself. They could reproduce, so the plant could reproduce without needing a mate, so it could reproduce off of itself asexually and make a copy of itself. So these are some characteristics of plant species, very similar to the issue. And again, they compete for resources and outcompete native plant species. So here's an example of a plant species that is invasive. Here's Japanese silkgrass. People brought this over to help establish like sides of creeks to make sure like that didn't erode too much. And what happened is that it eroded, or it did very well at doing that, but it also spread very quickly, and it made it so native flowers and stuff cannot be grown where it's growing, because it just outcompetes the resources, outcompetes for sunlight. It spreads very quickly, and then so you have a reduction of native plant species because of it. Another example is this garlic mustard. It's a similar thing where it's very prolific. It spreads very quickly, and then it outcompetes. If you see this around, it's outcompeting native species for resources, and you're not going to see the variety of native flowers that you would normally see, or native bushes and plants that you would normally see. So they, like we said, so in a place where you have Japanese silkgrass growing through a forest, you're not going to see the variety of flowers that you would. And again, that's the main point of this, is that they outcompete for resources. If this is all thick in here like this, then these native flowers are not going to be able to exist within that ecosystem. And so that's a bad thing, because there might be other native plants within the food web that rely on this flower to live and to grow and to keep its population in check. So that's why they're bad deals. So impacts of invasive species, right? Again, the same thing where we talk about they will kill the native species, right? So they just make it so then the things that should naturally be there are not there. Another thing we have here is they might reduce some of the water, the oxygen content in water levels. If they grow too close to the stream, they could pull out they could slow the water flow down and make it so that native animals aren't able to survive within a water system. And there could be economic impacts, right? So there could be, like, this is an example, this picture that I have right here is the European starling thing. And so they could eat crops, they could damage buildings. And so there's a lot of economic impacts. Then additionally, like the zebra mussel we talked about a few slides ago, that can jam up canals where we move barges through, and make it so that it just creates walls and the water flow won't work properly, and it slows down economic commerce through water systems. So they could cost us a lot of money in trying to remove them. So what you can do to help is make sure that for example, you just got to consider where you're at and what is the risk. So if you're on a boat, if you go to the Lake of the Ozarks or Lake Taneycomo or any, even the Mississippi or Missouri River on a boat, there's rules that say that you have to clean your boat off. You have to clean the hull and scrub it down really well before you're allowed to put your boat into another space. And in certain bodies of water, they make you drive through a checkpoint to make sure that somebody like other than yourself has checked through your boat to make sure that there's no mussels on it or any type of I know there's another invasive species like it's called a diatom. It's a brown algae that causes the similar thing where it just soaks up nutrients out of water sources. And so there's somebody that before you launch your boat into a water system, they'll check your boat over for you to make sure there's no invasive species. If you're hiking in a forest, it's important to look over your boots when you come back to make sure there's no insects or bugs on there and then you could take that insect and go down to another forest across the state and bring that a hitchhiker with you and damage. Another thing is they talk about is you cannot move firewood. So if you're big in camping, you'll know that if you buy if you're going to buy firewood for your campsite, you have to buy it at where you're at, and you can't if you have any leftover firewood from your camping, you can't bring it back around the state because that'll move that emerald ash borer around or some other invasive species. So there's rules against um, moving firewood. If you have an aquarium fish like a cichlid or a goldfish or any kind of non-native freshwater aquarium fish, tetras, you're not allowed to just take those and put them in the pond at Carondelet Park, right? You have to dispose of it, let it live, take care of it, but you're not supposed to put it out in the outside, right? If you have a non-native turtle pet, you're not allowed to just take it and put it in Forest Park because you're introducing a non-native species and you don't know the impacts of that species in that ecosystem. So you can't just take your pets and just put them out in the wild because you don't know what it could do. And that's the problem with the people doing the Burmese pythons in La Florida, right? So those are some things that you can do to prevent the spread of invasive species, all right? And that is all I had for you. I hope you got something out of this quick lecture. If you have any questions, again, you can contact me during my office hours, Tuesday through Thursday, 1:30 to 3. Appreciate those students that have been contacting me. I hope you're well. I hope you continue to thrive. And if you have any questions, make sure you're asking and reaching out. Have a good one. Bye.